awkward at first.
Please
Apologies.
do not be afraid.
What goes into my art here at GSA? It is story, mostly. My stories, the stories of other people, it can be small snippets or big things. I love exploring and finding new ways to tell things that other people might have already said or that haven't been spoken yet. I have a very eclectic taste, in my opinion. I love all sorts of music from all sorts of places, especially because music really does tell a story. I really love the folk music, especially from this area, and I love punk and grunge and all these more emotional musicians. Like, some of my favorite musicians are Halsey and the Crane Wives and artists like that, because they are telling stories, whether it is Halsey's song 3 a.m., where she is talking about a night after a bar, or Crane Wives' Tongues and Teeth, where she is communicating with her partner that she is not a healthy person. There are these emotions that songs really pull out in my art. What emotions went into the painting on the right? It's really about growing up and going from childhood to adulthood. I recently turned 18, and the transition from being safe at home and protected by your family to being pushed into the real world, and society is saying that you have to start thinking about career and everything, like, to survive on your own. It's a terrifying process. So I mix elements like the stuffed animal and the flowers and a poster and boots as like elements of my childhood, with the pearls and the clock showing that time is moving. And as you become an adult and as you become a woman, there are certain ideas that are now being pushed on you. How do I manage the time crunch here at GSA? I usually start with a really small basic sketch so that I can decide on my end goal. Because if you've got an end goal, you can plan out how much time it will take to get to said goal. And I will go through many different processes in between, but as long as I keep to my original idea of the end, once I get there, I know when to stop, and I can just cut myself off there. Painting is where I love to exist. It's what I do the most of, and I don't have many opportunities to explore things such as printmaking due to the large amount of equipment required, and ceramics because of the large amount of material required. I wanted to really go out of my normal bounds and size limits and really just explore other mediums. Occasionally, once a day, I get burnt out on whatever I'm doing, especially when we have back-to-back studio days in the same studio. What I do usually, if it's in the middle of working on a piece, is I stand up, I stretch, I drink water, I go to the bathroom. I might not need to go to the bathroom. Maybe I'm washing my face, maybe I'm washing my hands. I'm doing something to get myself out of that space, out of that headspace, and away from that art piece, so that I can come back to it with fresh eyes and fresh hands. If I'm away from an art piece, let's say I've got a free day, I work on something that is purely casual, that has no strings, no rules, no requirements, and no expectations. So I can really free my mind from that perfectionism that I have. A majority of the work that I do is doodles in my sketchbook. I like having that free-flowing movement. I love seeing the process in the art piece. When you look at it, you can tell which direction I was moving my paintbrush, where I was pushing my fingers. I love seeing both the story that I am trying to tell and the story of how I created the piece and how I came to tell that story. So I don't like this perfect machine cut type deal. I like to show what hands created the piece. What art pieces did I put in my portfolio to apply here? We were required to do. I suck with numbers. I can't remember exactly how many, but we were supposed to do a self-portrait, a landscape, a statue made from found objects, and then a couple sketches and a couple art pieces that were free. The requirements, I did a landscape of my street. I did a self-portrait of myself in my bedroom wearing my sweater dress. And there's this one piece I made, but previously unrelated to GSA, that I put in my portfolio that was inspired by my teacher talking about Cubism and Picasso. And it is a self-portrait of myself in like a synthetic Cubism kind of style. And I love the bright colors that I put into it. I am not very familiar. This painting is a brilliant example of me struggling. I have never worked with oil paints before coming here. And my teacher, Nathaniel, had us work on a test. The first test for this piece, I hated it. I didn't know how to work with the paint. I didn't like what I was drawing. I didn't like what I was working with. So I redid the test. I first took my collage and I ripped it straight in half and glued it to another piece and drew something I was a bit more familiar with creating, my own face in the middle. And I really try to connect what I do know with what I don't and take techniques that I'm used to and put it into new things so I can branch out and learn a bit more. Same goes with landscapes. I don't know how to do them very well, so I try and put my knowledge of color and shadow into a landscape and try to merge what I do know with what I don't. My identity affects it. I am bisexual and I explore my gender identity. If you see my face right now, I like to do makeup in a way that is an art piece. I like to be as much of an art piece as what I'm putting on canvas. And when I'm creating people, I think appearance before gender. I think what shape is their eyes, what color is their hair, and I think that the last step I take is gender, and even then, sometimes I don't. And I love being inspired by other artists in my community because my community is full of artists. I am very inspired by drag queens and by musicians who are queer. Halsey, that I mentioned, she is also bisexual. I love the space and the ability to explore and push out of bounds, out of the box. That's really what art is about, and that's what this community is about. You aren't in the boxes or binary that society expects of you. I'm really bad with favorites. I love a lot of what I create, and I also kind of hate it a little bit. I am, as I said before, very much of a perfectionist, so I am always critiquing myself and pushing myself. Something that I am really proud of that is outside my comfort zone is the piece I'm building in ceramics. It is a Medusa head with two faces to really push the idea of the different sides of how society views women and feminine presenting people. One side is very calm, demure, very quiet, and that's society's ideal. They want you to be submissive and small and easy to control. And on the other side is the monster that society views women as. At the exact same space as that demure quiet, they think that women are loud, emotional, uncontrollable, hysteric. You don't know what you're talking about because you're being too emotional, you're too connected. But in both those sides, I think that is where women gain their power. In the quiet, you are calm, you are collected, you're able to analyze a situation and gather information. And in the emotional, you're able to connect with situations and people and really absorb what is going on and find best how to move in the space you are in. So that's really what it represents. And if you know the story of Medusa, it is a sad, tragic story of the violence that happens to women for both reasons.